Hey guys, this is Contron. I just wanted to start with an experiment of mine. Um, this is something that I've never really heard of, but always thought might be interesting to follow along. I am going to be creating a long-term project Roblox game and sort of editing in the highlights of what I'm working on just to share the process of what it's like to code games, design models, and just generally the creative process. I will go out and admit that I'm not a successful game maker. I've never created a super popular Roblox game. However, I still do have a history of making Roblox games. I've been working on it for about a year and a half now. I have created two games in particular, if you can see it. It's King's Reach and Monster Kid. They're very different in terms of level of how advanced they are. Um, I this King's Reach in particular, my first game was just a project to learn what it's like to code Roblox games. I had to learn Lua. I had to do a lot of research and watch videos. Monster Kid was more of like a real attempt to make a game, and I may or may not be done working on it. But for now, I have had inspiration to create a new game. And I will be going over what that will be like in MS Paint in just a few moments. Just a little background information. I am currently 20 years old. I am a college student in computer science major. I've been coding for about 3 or 4 years now, and I love to do it. It's such a fun process for me. I feel like I have all this freedom to do whatever I want and create the wackiest or coolest things imaginable. Uh, and just sort of bringing that into Roblox has been a pleasure, to say the least. So let's just start off with the game that I had in mind. I am thinking of a sort of boxing game that involves Quicktime events like reaction speed, and then also maybe room for much more creative flow. That sounded weird. I want QuickTime events could be like one mode, but the other mode could be sort of like you move your mouse and your character moves his body one direction, and then you move your mouse the other way and they move his body the other way. So let me just sort of draw that out for you. Let's just start with QuickTime events. So QuickTime events, if you don't know what they are, you've probably at least seen them. You just don't know exactly that it's called a QuickTime event. So if you've ever played a game and then maybe like a box shows up and then an arrow shows up in the box indicating to press your left arrow key, and under the indicator, maybe there's like a bar that has like a timer of sorts. Um, so like the timer goes down, and maybe that whole process is like, I don't know, 2 seconds. So you have 2 seconds to press the left arrow key, and if you do that, then your character dodges what you want. So when I put that into my game, I imagine, let's say you're right here, and excuse my drawing, I'm not the best artist, and I'm also drawing on a mouse. But let's say you're right here, you have your boxing gloves, and then there's another player, because Roblox is a social game, it's all about multiplayer. I'm not really going to be making a single player game here, although there could be opportunities for single player experiences in this game. But for now, let's just say it's um, a single player or a multiplayer game. So let's say the player you are playing against throws a left jab at you. And the only way for you to be able to dodge that is through Quicktime Events. So, the box will show up and the arrow will show up, and you press the left arrow, and then suddenly, you know, your character, your character dodges to the side to avoid the punch. Um, you know, and so like the punch would be like this area, and you dodge to the left, and now you don't get punched, and you survived. But let's say you miss the QuickTime event, then you do in fact actually get punched. So let's just say this person got punched, and then you would have, 3 hearts, for example, right here. So you have 3 hearts, and then all of a sudden, oh, you got punched. So that's 1 heart less. You now have 2 hearts, and the player that you're facing has 3. And then you need to throw a punch back at him, and you need to hit them, and it will start generally pretty slow. The QuickTime events would maybe be like, I don't know, 3 seconds, and then after a little bit of dodging, it's like 2 seconds, and then 1 second, and then you're getting to this really fast realm where it's all about reaction speed. You have like maybe a third of a second, a quarter of a second to press the right button. And if you press the wrong button, you get hit. If you don't do it in time, you get hit, and it really gets intense. It could be this really fun, intense, fast-paced game. So that's generally the layout of my idea. The second part of it, I'm not going to be able to draw as easily. So just sort of pocket that in the back of your head, and I will sort of I will bring that idea out in the near future. Just explaining where I want to go with that. I want to start with the QuickTime events and then move on to the more freestyle play in the future. Because, at least in my experience of Roblox coding, it's all about building up your fundamental blocks to get to where you want to go. Because if you build, the more advanced stuff at the start and you need to build the fundamentals, you just don't know where to go from it, and it gets super confusing. So that is my general idea. So I'm going to create a new Roblox game, but before I start that, I just want to get started with what is this? Well, this is a speedrun timer, but I will not be using it to speedrun because I am not speedrunning a Roblox game creation. This is going to be a long-term project. I'm thinking, potentially a couple months at least, just to see where I can go. And I thought it would be really interesting if I could log the amount of time that I accumulate just working on this game. So I'm going to be keeping a timer running throughout this entire project, and this isn't. It'll just run from 0 to an infinite amount of time, and let's just say I stop for the day at 6 seconds. Obviously, it would probably be a little bit further than that, but once that happens, I can go into this notepad that I have set up, the split timer, and basically I'll just say for day 1 I went from 0 seconds to 6 seconds and 25 seconds. If we're going to be more realistic, maybe be like 3 hours, 32 minutes, and 27 seconds, 0.42, I don't know, 43. So I will save that, and then when I come back the next day, and this will not necessarily mean tomorrow, just the next day that I work on this project, then I can open up the timer, I can set the time that I ended on yesterday, and, just plug that in and start from there. And, I imagine by the end of this project, I'll probably have logged quite a few hundred hours, maybe like 200 or 300 hours. Just because with my last projects, I spent about 4 to 5 months on each project, and I never really logged the time, but I would guess it was in the hundreds of hours. I definitely spent a lot of time on those projects. Um, my last tool that I'll be sharing with you guys is just a simple to-do list that I just downloaded like right before I started recording. Um, to say, it's pretty simple. Like when I make games, I tend to like sort of like just come up with new ideas as I go. And, if I just say, oh, mental note of this one thing, it doesn't ever really mean I'm going to remember to do that. It just means like it'll just disappear from my brain. So when I think of ideas while I'm creating a game, I like to write them down and then come back to them later so that I know where to go. This list is empty right now, but you will eventually find it will get pretty full. Um, because with my previous to-do lists, they would probably have on average around 30 things to do at a time. And then, I work on one thing on the list and I'm like, oh, well, here's these two or three things that I could also do to add on. And then I'll just extend the list more than I'm removing from it. And it will definitely be pretty high. It'll definitely have a lot of entries until I'm getting sort of to the conclusion of this project. So that is just where I'm at. Let's restart this timer and just start with our game. So I want to do this in a group game. I didn't do this with any of my previous projects, but I do want my game to be registered under my Roblox group, which is Contron Games Official. Um, when I create games, I just start with a classic base plate, or maybe just the new base plate. I know they added this in like earlier this year or something. Let's see. Oh, already some errors. That's a good start. But we have just started, so let me start the timer now. And this is the beginning of probably a very long time. I think I'll put the timer around here. I just want it to be like out of the way of stuff that I'm working on, but also visible to you guys as the viewers so that you know where I'm at. I may move it in the future. Just depends on what's the most convenient. So I think the first thing to get started on, I mean, first I'm just going to remove the spawn. Well, no, I'll keep it there for now. But the first thing to get started on would just be to create a boxing tool. And it's going to be very primitive for now, just because I'm still sort of like trying to think where I want to go with this game. Think like a Roblox sword where you just click and then it does damage. It'll definitely get much more advanced. There will be, I don't know, like, the Quicktime Events. It'll be very limited to when you can use them. So I'm not very good at creating models. So probably just to start, I'm going to rip something from the toolbox, but don't tell anyone I did that. Just like box glove. Okay, here we go. Do not put this in the starter pack. So it's probably got all this crap. I don't really want... Is this a mesh? Yeah, it is a mesh. Okay. Let's see if I can find something that isn't a mesh. I'm not a big fan of meshes. They're hard to work with. Don't worry, I don't plan on using the scripts or whatever that may come with these. I'm just ripping the model. But that won't be permanent, of course. Okay, we are back. I have readjusted my avatar to be just the typical blocky model. The reason why is because in my vision, I will be having the model forced to be blocky, just to fit the scale of the boxing glove. So that looks, I would say, a decent bit better. So it doesn't do anything yet. I just have it set up so that I can hold it. So I'm going to be working on, that's going to be the coding part, obviously. So I think what I want to start with is just sort of, all right, so let's create a script. Throw a punch within the created function. That should work. Yep, there we go. So I am left clicking, as you can probably hear. Once I left click, it activates and it runs test. Okay. Let's export that, overwrite my other glide idle. This way I don't need to I don't need to insert a new animation or anything. Just use it as is. And if I play, I shouldn't have my head bobbing around anymore. Yep, there we go. And then I can still punch. So I've got my idle animation playing. Looks a little awkward, just the placement. Let's see. My right arm needs to go in more. So let's go back to here. Oh, interesting. So it seems like the tool handle is actually overriding certain things because it should be in more, but it's not. Okay guys, I'm back. If you may notice down here, it has been a couple days. But I wouldn't worry too much about that since these videos I'm making, they are going to be over multiple sessions, over typically about a week. You know, life goes on, so I am back. And the counter is also a bit higher than it was, and that is because I spent about an hour just sort of researching where to go with this tool. And incidentally, I actually don't want it to be under a tool anymore. I'm gonna give another shot at a different angle that will involve sort of equipping the gloves with a button just for now. And then just sort of weld these on. There's not going to be like a handle. I'm not going to use the tool grip editor. They're going to weld onto the hands, and it's going to unlock the ability to punch. This is down the line. But if we're just starting with equipped gloves, then it lets me have more freedom to do what I want. That being, you know, I don't want the hand being stuck forward like it was before. I want to have an actual custom animation. That would be why. Toggle now. There we go. That looks fantastic. Alright. Let me throw the angles back in. See if that works. I may have to adjust the angles a little bit because it is flipped. Yeah. Okay. So let's just set this to 0. Oh. No, I did actually need that. Okay. Let's put that back. And then this maybe also needs to be 180. Yeah, there we go. Look at me, I got my gloves. Looking mighty fine. And then I can unequip them and re-equip them and unequip and re-equip. Great. Okay.
I messed something up. Because I didn't think I need it. Yeah.
Yep, looks good. Alright, so now I got my gloves and he's got his hands up. And I can work on the punching animation. So I think by doing that... Oh, whoa. Oh, yeah, because I never recreate. Okay, so once it does that, then debounce is equal to true. So then all it does is it just waits for the animation to end, and once it does, you can punch again. Yep. It's a little fast-paced. I feel like... I mean, there's going to be much more defined rules, because it's going to be sort of turn-based, where like you throw a punch, and then they throw a punch, and then you throw a punch. So I want to get the other animations involved. So I need a right hook, and then a left jab and a right jab. And I think basically, yeah, so just a left hook, a right hook, a left jab, and a right jab. So it'll just cycle through and it'll go back to 1 once it hits 5. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then back to 1 immediately. So it should play all of the animations. So I got the gloves, I got the left hook, left jab, right hook, right jab. So as you can see, the jabs are not the best. They're just sort of awkward and quick. So yeah, they need some work. They're sort of lacking in reach as well. Now that I look at it, the right hook could also use... Actually, both hooks, I think, need to, like, go over more? I don't know. But we got the animations, so now I'm this punching machine. This is actually quite satisfying to look at. I think that's good. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching the first episode of this series. I think this will be a very interesting experience, an experiment as we continue. If you do like my content and you want to support me, please like and subscribe. And also join my Discord, which I will leave in the description down below. So thank you. Bye.